What's happening, Patreon? We're here in Moon Cat Manor, right? This is my favorite thing. this one right here is my other one, right? And there's a bunch of those, but I'm not going to talk about cigars. So speaking of which, gosh, that guy Howie on the comment section, that guy is determined. Anyway, look. I'm giving you guys behind the scenes look at what's been going on with this pedal board build. The video is going to come out at the end of November, I hope. I'll probably be editing it in the van while I'm driving out west and then posting it. But here's what's going to happen, and you guys are going to get a behind the scenes look. So that, well, here, let me just show you. Okay. That's the top of the new pedal board. So it's made by Pedal Pad, right? So what happens is just the physical thing. This goes over, this goes over the top of it and closes like that, and then latches up, right? So it's all one piece. And then you open it up, you power into it, and then an out on the side over here. Right, and then it's just ready to go. You don't have to plug anything in. What makes Pedal Pad unique is they were the first ones to come up with this design. So what you do is you got pedals that are either always on and your power supply stashed underneath, and then you control them from the top with what's going to go here when it's there. So that was this device here. I'll get to this board in a minute. This thing was on that board before. Now there's going to be two of those, right, that sit right here and control all of the pedals. Almost every pedal except the Clean Cat will be plugged into those. Those are called looper switchers. So anyway, all the cables are routed and they're just waiting for the looper switcher to arrive. Probably going to replace a couple of these cables. But anyway, that's small. The really hard part, and then I'm waiting on some cables from my power supply. All of these under here, right here, are powered off of this. So this is the most exciting thing right here. So most of you know that I used to use, or some of you know that I used to use the Kinder anti-feedback for a lot of years. And then I became like pretty disillusioned with it. Just because it had a fixed tone. It distorted in a particular way, and it compressed in a particular way, and you couldn't really adjust that all that much. So I fell out of love with that pedal. But it did fight feedback really, really well, and the compression and distortion that it had was very likable. Just for me, not all night long with exactly the same tone. So I started getting into the harp shield. And that's what I've been using now, for at least, well, since 2011. And I like it. Now this little knob on here is for my foot to go up and down. I'll be able to turn that pedal on and off from a looper switcher that will sit there. What's really interesting is that this looper switcher that's going to go on this side here, what it's going to do is it's going to control the harp shield, which runs into the brake and the flat cat. These will all be independently controllable. So these three will usually run together. But, so what happens is I can now engage the Kinder without going through the harp shield, harp brake, or compression pedal. So since the Kinder distorts and compresses on its own, I won't have to turn these off when I turn it on. That's amazing. And it's not going to be easy. It took me a long time to kind of figure out, how to do that. I'm not the sharpest tech in the book electronically. But still, even like for your average person, I don't think it's exactly obvious. So you'll notice there's a couple new additions to the board, mainly this pedal here, the Strymon. Okay, and then this Many Worlds thing. Those are both new. The Strymon has to sit up on top of a riser because the looper switcher is going to be about that high too. So in order to access it, the tap tempo. Tap tempo has been a game changer for me. I always thought it was silly and like it was something I didn't really need until I started using it, and now I don't know how I've lived without it. This here is for vocals. This adds echo, analog echo to my vocals and my acoustic harmonica playing through the PA. So you can plug in the PA mic here and then an out to the PA system. This here is for running through 2 amplifiers. This is the direct out in case I want the board to go directly out into the house. And then this Lone Wolf Boogeyman is only getting used if something goes wrong on this board. So let's talk about that. That's one of the main, that's the only argument I can see against having a pedal board. It's not signal loss. You can make up for that, although I got something to add to that in a minute. But it's not really not that. Pedals allow you to be able to play at any volume on a big amp anywhere and have the same tone. And they also, if you end up with a bad amp, they will really help you shape the tone of that amp to make it sound a lot better. So basically, this is just a good thing to have, if you're playing out a lot. Anyway, the only bad thing about a pedal board is there's a lot to go wrong, right? So each pedal has 3 cables, 1 power cable and 2 in and outs. So that's 3 things that can fail. Then you add in the pedal, right? Then you add in the wireless or the cable going into the board. That's another thing. And then the cable going out, then the microphone, and then the amp. So if something just stops working, you don't know what it is. So one quick solution to that is to have a quick backup plan. Now, in the past, I usually just end up playing the whole night on the PA, or I just go grab my spare board out of the band. All right, anyway, so all of these pedals down here will be controlled by the looper switcher. A couple of these stay on all the time. For the most part, if I'm using the harp shield and not the Kinder, the brake and the flat cat will be on most of the time. Another interesting thing that I will have on the looper switcher when it gets here is a bypass switch. So that will bypass every single pedal in this board and go straight out. That is incredible. Right, so I'll be able to hear my signal and just what my perfect clean tone sounds like before any effects are added. The other benefit of these looper switchers is what is in the past, when you're plugging into one pedal, normally you're daisy chaining out of this pedal into that one, 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 into that one. That can cause signal loss or a dirtying of the signal. The more pedals you add, the worse it gets. So, which is still not bad. It's really, really barely even noticeable. In some cases, even better. But the cool thing about the looper switcher is the pedal is not in the chain. It goes directly into the looper switcher. So, for example, this Clean Cat is my boost. When the Clean Cat is off or on, right, it is the only pedal operating in the chain. Even if all of these will be on, but they won't be activated until I hit this, because each one of it has its own send and return. Each pedal has its own send and return. So when they're not being activated, the signal's not going through anything. And even when all the pedals are on and everything on the looper switcher is on, it's still a better way to have a cleaner signal going to your amp. So anyway, that's what's going on with the 2 looper switchers. It's going to probably hard for you guys to understand that the deal with the harp shield is it doesn't change your tone at all. That's why I'm so in love with it, right? And the only thing I use the brake and the flat cat to add distortion and compression, so really these kind of 3 pedals here are the same as what the Kinder does in one. The difference is is that these are all way more adjustable than the Kinder. But the Kinder fights feedback a little easier than the Gate does. It's a little bit easier the way it does it. Like, you don't have to monitor it. Like I don't have to have a little switch with that my foot can kind of operate, or worry about turning it on or off. It doesn't gate the signal like that, like the Kinder. The Kinder doesn't gate the signal like the Shield does. So that's very cool about being able to use both of them. So 90% of the night will still be the old way that I used to. But to have the option on playing with a gig with a band that's maybe a little too loud, and I don't want to have to worry about fussing with this, it's nice to have the Kinder there as a backup. It'll also be nice for certain songs to have a different tone that will probably be a little less compressed than the amount of compression that I usually add on the Flat Cat. So what are the rest of the pedals? So we've covered the Kinder. This is one of my favorite pedals that we've ever built, the Clean Cat from Lone Wolf. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful clean boost. It does what the EP booster does between here and there. And then after here, it's basically like a distortion pedal, right? And then, so then we covered that. We covered the Harp Shield. The Break is probably my favorite pedal that Lone Wolf makes. It's a lovely, lovely distortion pedal, or really what I would just call a preamp. And that bass boost knob right there is money. Flat Cat is for basically only if you're using big amplifiers and maybe a microphone like the Jason Ricci mic, a real modern day microphone. Then the El Capistan is a delay pedal I've wanted for many years. It's very expensive. I didn't get it for free. I had to pay for it. And it was a big decision to get that. And boy, am I glad I did. I really like it. I really like it. I don't know about this riser. It's a little bit flexible. I was kind of hoping for a more sturdy riser than that. But anyway, we'll see how it works. Pitchfork, not really my favorite octave pedal that I've ever used. I thought the Pog kind of sounded better on the octaves, but this pedal does more than the Pog. And for that reason alone, I can't leave it. It sounds great. Although recently I've been messing with this subbing app that I got off of Facebook Marketplace for $40, and it's pretty cool too. But this one's really tight and sounds really tight. The Many Worlds is a really interesting phase. It was a tough decision, between that and maybe some kind of rotary effect, right? But that'll probably get used once a night or once every 2 or 3 nights. It's just a really fun pedal. The majority of these pedals, the Clean Cat, the Shield, the Break, they're all tone shaping pedals. Now, I'm really, really big on delay. So we have that one delay there. Then we have the carbon copy. So that's the delay that I use most of the time. I barely put anything on it. So like when I'm playing, like you hear it, but you don't. You really can't tell it's even on until I turn it off. This delay I am absolutely in love with. So this is the V3 or version 3 of the Lone Wolf harp delay. I did not care for the first 2. This one is a game changer for me. This sounds just like that old little Walter delay. It's absolutely incredible. This knob here, it controls basically the tape quality. It's unbelievable. Now this pedal can imitate that kind of delay, but honestly, I think this one's got more personality. Harp reverb, just a reverb. The Lone Wolf reverb doesn't go up quite as much as I like, but I'm actually kind of glad it doesn't, so I can stash it underneath it, and it's one less thing I have to deal with. The Sonic Stomp is like a sonic EQ pedal. It kind of cleans up everything. And then the Maxon Auto Wah. Now, I have another one of these somewhere that is kind of broken, but it will work with the looper switcher. I just can't find where I put it after I moved. So I'm looking for that. So anyway, because I want to put that on my travel board, right? So this board goes with me. It travels with me in the van, but I don't fly with it. So anyway, that's every single thing. Okay, that's the There's two different power sources, isolated power source. That's my wireless. Oh yeah. So this right here, this True Tone thing, is a buffer. So that goes before everything in the signal, and that is going to help with any signal loss. So I come out of the wireless into the buffer, into the Clean Cat, into the harp shield, harp brake, and compressor, or if I want, with a flip of a switch, into the Kinder anti-feedback. And then that would go into everything else. So that's where I'm at right now with it. I can't believe we're at 15 minutes already. Here is the travel board. So speaking of that Lone Wolf pedal, this is a Electro Harmonics slapback delay. So this is kind of trying to do what the Lone Wolf pedal does, or the Lone Wolf pedal is trying to do what that does. It's called the Red Run. Anyway, look, the Lone Wolf pedal is better than this one. But this one takes up barely any space, and I don't have two of the Lone Wolf pedals. Otherwise, I would probably make it fit. So, on this board, this here, every single thing on this board, except for the Sonic Stomp, which is on all the time, and the Harp Shield, which is on most all the time, is operated off of this looper switcher. So this takes care of the Clean Cat. This is the brake. This is the flat cat. And then, and these two here are looped together. So when I step on the brake and turn it on, it turns on both these at once. So that's the other thing you can do with a looper switcher, is you can put 2 or 3 or more pedals into one thing. So when you turn this on, it'll activate or turn off all 3 of those all at once. So that's very, very convenient. I just thought of something. That's really interesting. All right, anyway. So this is how it starts. So that, yeah. So I'm going, so yeah, this takes care of the brake and the flat cat, and then we go to octave. And the octave is the new sub and up that I'm trying out. And then this is my short delay here with the Red Run. And then my long delay here with this old TC Electronics flashback. This is probably the best delay for the money, right? It does a lot of the things that the little ones do and the Lone Wolf ones do. Not quite as well, I think. The slapback isn't quite as good as the Lone Wolf one. Maybe you can mess with it to get it really, really close, though. Right, but so this is the little flyboard. So I take this. The whole thing cost me like $60. I did a thing on it earlier, the board itself. The real hard work is in the cables and everything else. And then there's like a lot of money in the power supply. The Strymon power supply right there. There's that thing is probably the most expensive thing on the board. It is the most expensive thing on the board, is the power supply. But like if you have a lot of pedals, you definitely want to have a good, reliable power source. The other thing you don't want to do is spend a bunch of money on pedals and then have bad cables. I've been using Rockboard cables. They're very cheap. They're like $7, and so far they sound great. I've been using them since before 2019. I haven't had any fail yet. That's just my experience alone. All right. That's my pedal board video before everything else gets done. If I can't even do that in 15 minutes, imagine what the done one's going to be like 2 hours long. All right, I'll have to figure out a way to keep it shorter. I'll have to make a few videos. All right, talk to you later. Bye.